So I'm currently at the lowest SR in my career on my main account. I feel like my ranked games are not reflecting my understanding of the game, but yet I can't seem to win. I came back from a 2 week break, which I hadn't taken a break in about 3 years, and I've played about 20 games in the last 2 days, and I haven't seen a normal comp on a normal map on both teams, and I get confused on how to win.
Mm. So what made you take a break? Just needed a break? Wanted to do something else? Wanted to see what it would be like, or what?
I kind of just didn't play for 2 or 3 days, and then I wanted to get my life more structured.
Yeah.
So, because at the time when I was playing Overwatch, I'd still exercise. Like I had an exercise regimen. I'd write out my week on Mondays, what I wanted to do for the week. But I felt like I wasn't going anywhere in Overwatch, and doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results is just insanity. So,
Yeah.
like, there's a point to where something I'm doing, I'm not doing it well enough.
Sure.
So
Sure. Okay.
that
Okay.
was my
Okay. Makes sense. So then questions, you said you just have some general questions in because I'm hearing what you're saying, but I'm not hearing the question.
Oh, yeah. I'm looking at foundational skills that compound over time, like what I should be looking at as a foundation as a player. Um,
Okay.
because I feel what's happened in the past is there'll be a meta. I hyper focus on what the meta is. I completely understand it. I play it really, really well, and then it changes, and I'm so much farther behind everyone in adjusting.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a lack of a like foundational adjustment. Because some players, they'll start off a little bit worse, but then they'll pick up within like 2 days. But I don't
Okay.
have that.
Okay. Your goal is tier one Overwatch.
Yes.
Okay. If we don't have time to get through it all today, let me send you two videos that you need to look at.
Okay.
Mhm.
Also, I've been reading a lot recently, which has been life changing on basically the social, I want to say like social economics, but like the social uh, understanding of how life works, if that makes
Mhm.
sense.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that no one ends up at the top by accident and
Mhm.
everyone's human.
Mhm.
I don't think there's a single person that got Overwatch League that did it by accident.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd agree
There's
with that. I'd agree with that. Most everyone that I know who's made it to the top has done so because they really, really, really just enjoyed playing Overwatch a ton. Um, and I think that like there's only a period of time where you can really grit your teeth and force yourself to do something that you don't enjoy doing just because it's productive. I learned that a little bit with Overwatch League, where I liked Overwatch League, and I really wanted to get to Overwatch League, and I was a very like driven and competitive person, and I knew how to improve its stuff. But what I realized is after 2 seasons in Overwatch League, or I guess a season and 2/3 or whatever, I realized that I did not enjoy it enough to justify the sacrifices that I had to make, and that could apply that same level of effort and intensity with something that'd be more rewarding for me. The social
mm,
compromises that I had to give was not something that I wanted to do. So I think it's good to be productive and apply yourself with whatever you're doing, but finding out what that you're going to apply yourself on is like the trial and error aspect of like learning skills, if that makes sense. Um, so I highly recommend like when you're applying yourself to like this professional pursuit, always reevaluate. Am I enjoying what I'm doing? Am I enjoying what I'm doing? There's going to be bad days. There's going to be good days. There's going to be days where you say yes. There's going to be days where you say no. But over the course of time, is this been a relatively positive experience or has this been absolute misery? And if it's ever like a grind, absolute misery, then you need to reevaluate your whole priorities.
that makes a lot of sense.
Because if you are a very tenacious and intense person, it sounds like you are, there is not one field where you can apply that level of tenacity. There's so many things that you can do with that. So just find something like what I've done with my content and stuff and like my coaching and my individual coaching and coming up with ideas. I've applied the same level of intensity that I have with other things, but I've actually enjoyed the process a lot more because it's just more interesting to me. It's just more interesting to me than Overwatch League was. So just keep that in mind. And I'd also, looking at your form here, there's a couple of things that are standing out. I'm going to bring up just a few of them. Playtime right now sounds like that has been a point of contention for you, where you are like gritting your teeth and forcing yourself to do it for long periods of time.
Yeah.
I generally recommend somewhere like the 4 to 5 hour playtime for somebody that's aspiring to go for tier 1, at least to start with.
Okay.
So even at your level, which is already Grandmaster, I think anything more than that is probably just a waste of time, depending on how you're approaching things. So what I would say is the absolute best bang for your buck is 2 scrims per day, 2 hours of ranked per day, 30 minutes of VOD review twice a week for most people. That's it. That's it. That's all. And you're done. Are you with a team right now?
No. I left my last team because I felt the environment was making me a worse player.
Okay.
That also led to my break.
What was wrong with the environment? If you don't mind me asking.
I I felt like people weren't there to win or as invested. Um, how do I explain this? I have to jog my memory. I have it written
Okay.
like in a notebook, but my
That's
notebook's
okay.
like in another room.
That's okay. I mean, we don't have to read the full story here, but just
Yeah,
like
I
the
felt
general.
like there wasn't self accountability, and it's not flaming people per se, but it would be I'm just gonna blame someone else, so it doesn't seem like I'm doing anything wrong. And there was only like 2 to 3 people that were actively botting on the team, and I just felt we were in the same place we were 3 months ago when I joined, and I'd written over a course of like 2 months that I don't feel like it's a productive environment to be in, and I didn't see changes, so I decided to leave, and that
Okay.
also
Okay.
impacted, what's it called? That also impacted my break, because
Yeah.
when I've done the best in Overwatch, team-wise, is when I'm on a team where I enjoy playing with people and we're just playing, but we're also there to win. I've been
Yep.
on very, very successful teams, but I've also just like that team was the first team that I've been on where, like, I felt like everything that could go wrong went wrong,
hmm hmm
and I'm
And
looking to bounce back from that.
sure. I mean, I think that that's going to be the crucial thing is just to start trying out for teams and finding a good environment that you want to play in. It's about that careful balance of am I again enjoying my time here, and is that time productive? And if the answer is yes to both of those, even if it's not perfect, roll with it. Roll with
Yeah,
it. Obviously, you know that, but that's going to be like that's just to remember that put those priorities over just about everything else. Because there have been teams where it's just like such a grind, hard, focused culture. It has to be super intense that you burn out, or like you said, maybe with your previous team, where like there's just not really any improvement at all. Maybe a lot of like people aren't really applying themselves, and if you're the best player on your team, at least in terms of like your mentality and your application for a long period of time, then you need to find a new team. You need to find a new team. So, okay. I feel like I have bursts of 2 to 4 weeks of outplaying outplayers in ranked and smurfing scrim blocks, then 1 to 3 weeks of struggling to win in masters, and it generally does not make sense to me what is causing it. Some days I can perceive the entire map game in third person function, hear all the audio cues. Other day it's a blur and I can't process what's going on. My screen audio wise, I have tendency to take what teammates say in team play 100%. Literally makes me be worse than on communication skills. Okay, so there's a lot of things that could be causing that. Let's talk about some of the low hanging fruit. Inconsistency with sleep, inconsistency with your emotional regulation, inconsistency with moving outside of Overwatch, inconsistency in playtime, playing too much so that you're burned out and you're tired, or not playing enough, being distracted by emotional or team play dynamics, team play environment, stuff like that. All of
that
those
was
things
really
affect that
big.
kind of stuff. Yeah.
That was really big. I've been researching emotional regulation, and I realized I was using Overwatch to regulate my emotions. But like
You-
this is like a recent thing I've come across. And I don't feel like there's people I can talk to about it because I don't think it's very common. But if I was feeling bad, I feel like I'd intentionally play bad so people would call me bad, and then I'd be like, "See, I knew I was bad."
Right. Right. It's
So,
it's 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 this it's a self pity party, right? Like, oh, I'm
yeah,
bad. See,
yeah,
look, I'm bad. I'm bad. I mean,
yeah,
everyone has bad days. Like even the concept of flow state there, where you're like, some days I'm super in, some days I'm super out. Like that's honestly not even something that you can really fully fix. Like literally every pro player in the universe including Kevster and proper Overwatch himself, have that dynamic. Like it is impossible to be consistent. But if you have extreme variances in your play, then that is definitely something that you can and should be taking the edges off of. And like you said, it's probably due to something social, emotional, or some sort of dynamic that you're screwing yourself over with. Like if you are, and it snowballs too, probably too, right? Like you start playing poorly and you're like, oh, I just suck. And then because of what you just described, you have a bad day that turns worse because of what you do with that bad day.
No, I agree. I feel like what I'm running into right now in ranked isn't necessarily that I'm bad, but I see just 3 people swing main in the open, just jumping, and nothing happens, and I'm so confused how everyone gets away with everything, and then my brain just fries, like, where am I?
Right. Again, it's putting the attention on the wrong things.
Yeah, you're right.
It's putting attention on the wrong things. And especially in ranked, like, it's hard to not take some of your team's results to heart, which you should try not to, but especially in ranked, like, it really is just a training ground. Like, the analogy that I always use is for anybody that has any experience in sports is that it is your drill ground. Whatever you're practicing, whether it's your positioning, your CD usage, your mechanics, whatever, that's what ranked is for. Ranked is not for winning or losing. It is for utilizing that as a ground to specifically train a specific set of skills that will help you perform better in scrims. That's why ranked is still something that's, I wouldn't say important, but I would say still useful when you're scrimmaging a lot, because if you are scrimmaging, you're probably thinking like a lot about your team play and your communication and like listening to calls and that kind of stuff, and you're not focusing enough on yourself. So then you go into rank and you're like, well, I'm just going to fix my Sojourn Disruptor shot placement because my Sojourn Disruptor shot placement is bad, or my tracer off angles, or like my tracer mechanics. That's where it's a safe spot for you to do that, because you don't have to think about, what's my role in this composition? You just click things.
That makes sense for me, but my main account is so low that I can't apply what I'm working on in scrims into ranked, because it's...
Give me an example of what you're struggling to apply.
So if I'm working on taking angles on tracer properly, there isn't a proper angle if no one's playing the map correctly.
So what you're looking for, though, is you're trying to practice a specific angle that you are supposed to play in scrims. You're you're memorizing the maps like it's a flashcard. When in reality, the situation is that you need to be understanding what does tracer want in a positioning, period.
That makes sense.
Short off angle, right? Short off angle as in like the range that you're playing. It might be very deep in the backline. It might be closer to your tank. It doesn't matter, though. And the reason why it's important to understand that is because what happens when the comp that you're scrimming in the meta pivots, you should not have to relearn how to play tracer. That tells me that you don't know how to play tracer. You just know how to play the meta. You should know. Oh, tracer plays off angles. It doesn't matter. But the type of off angles depends on the situation and what my team is doing. But you should have like, when you never want to memorize positions. You want to have, you will have positions that work better in different comps and different metas and that you'll get more familiar with. But you should still understand generally what tracer wants to do, regardless of what your teammates are doing. It's the same problem that a lot of like gold players have. Like they'll see like these ML7, like these are the top Ana positions, and they come to me and they're like, "Coach, I can't do this because my team never plays here. My team literally never holds this choke. They're always pushing forward." And I'm like, "Okay, well then what does Ana want in the position?" And they just sit there and they drool out of their mouth because they don't know what Ana wants, right? And so you see the problem here is that they actually don't know positioning. They think they do, but they don't. What does Ana want? Oh, well, they want, we talk about like cover and having range and having a bit of an angle. And then all of a sudden, once they know that, I then pull up their code. Your bronze team is spawn camping on this map. Where should you hold? That checks those boxes. And they go, oh, I could go here. I'm like, yeah, you could. That's great. Do it. It's the same thing with you. But it's the opposite.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You're being spoiled by high-level Overwatch, and so then you go into ranked like, oh, these guys are just monkeys. They don't know what they're doing. Just literally just brain-dead primates. They don't even have any idea of what they're doing. And no, you're the monkey here. Like you're the dumb one, right? You're the one that's and I think a monkey is a good way to describing it, because you're just instinctual. Press a button. There's no active like problem solving. You're just doing the action because that's what I do in scrims. But you don't understand tracer position.
That makes sense.
And that's good because that means that you don't have to feel held. You don't have to feel held captive to what your teammates are doing. You can make your own choices. You can get your own value no matter how bad your teammates are. No matter if they're running the wrong comp or a ball one trick, right? You can still get value out of what you're doing.
That makes sense. Because I've noticed players that are better than me or like in the community are like thought to be better. when I play them in officials, I do really, really well against them and outperform a lot of them. But then if we play in lower elo, like say we get dropped into a game that's like mixed SR, they can take over the lobby. I can't, but I can take over. Get like an example. I feel like I have is anytime I go against Yazan, if my full team is like if the whole lobby is good, I can win. But if I have like two master support players that are just dead on cooldown to Yazan, like flying in the air, like
Uh-huh.
I don't know how to impact that.
Yep, yep. And that's where you're a good team player, or maybe you've been on good teams, but you're not a very good player.
Mm,
I'm being
that makes
facetious.
sense.
Obviously, you're a good player, but like in comparison, your skill set, and this happens all the time. Like there was a team I coached. One of the first teams I actually ever coached was this like mid-high masters team, and we like developed this composition, and we got the ins and outs of that composition. So, and we were beating like mid-high GM teams, like 4.4 teams, and
Yeah.
we were like our support player was like 3,600, right? But our team was really good. Our communication was really good. We had a bit of a system. But you take those players out of the system and say, okay, now play the character that you're playing in the ranked environment without this little safe zone. And they can't do it, right? Because they're not good at the character. They're good at the cog in the machine.
That sounds like me. I'm really good at systems. If we have a system, I perform it much better than anyone else we're like playing
Right.
against or with. But if
Right.
there's not a system, I just like I actually look terrible.
Right. And here's the thing that should encourage you, that Overwatch is a game of systems, even in the ranked environment. You just need to understand new systems.
Mm,
If you
like bubbles of skills.
Yes, more like and the way I looked at the systems as well is they're more like general principles, right? That you could apply more broadly. So if we talked about like the Tracer wants off angles that have shorter sightlines, how and where can you apply that on New Queen Street first fight? And if you don't know the answer to that, then you need to pull up New Queen Street or next time you play New Queen Street and experiment and think about it, right?
That makes sense.
And then what you do is you take these really broad principles, really simple, really basic, and then you go practice applying them. And because they're so broad and they're so basic, they give you a lot of freedom to be creative and try different things. Like, for example, in the New Queen Street example, which short, deep off angle is best versus a Widowmaker? Which short off angle is better versus a more somber Reaper comp that any team might play? What about if your team is on poke? What if they're so what you do is, because Overwatch is such a complicated and dynamic game, you allow these systems to be super basic and super fundamental, so that then they allow for very broad interpretation. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense.
Because it's useful everywhere. You could just apply that to whatever you're playing. Short, off angle. Okay, then where is that going to play here? And you don't even have to know the answer for sure. It just allows you something to experiment with without overthinking every single little detail.
That flexibility is big. Because I feel like anytime I set something, if it's not applicable, like yeah, that makes sense.
You're a specialist, right? You're a specialist, but it's impossible to be an effective specialist in Overwatch 2, at least at the highest level. It's impossible.
That makes sense.
It's impossible. I mean, you look at a lot of people that are kind of perceived as specialists in general have a very broad knowledge of the character that they're playing. Like how is LH Cloudy so good at Reinhardt, right? It's not just the Rein mirrors that he's good at. How do you play Reinhardt into a hog one trick, right? If you don't know how to do that, then you're not going to be successful in Overwatch 2.
That makes sense.
And while I do think that you're put under more of that microscope in ranked, just because the environment is so much more dynamic and unpredictable, I don't think there are very many scrim players that are bad in ranked, because I do think you learn something fundamental about the game by hitting yourself head up against the wall. Like the way Cloudy plays Rein is pretty useful when you're playing dive and scrims.
Yeah. I've noticed that too. An example of like Hottie, he knows what his cooldowns do and how they get value, and I can do that in higher elo, but I example would be like resource trades or like attention trades. Like I know in high elo, if like the start of the fight, if I'm proccing DPS passive on their tank, and then I can go on their Kiri, so their Kiri like looks at me and uses Bell, like that is value, but it's not like sometimes it doesn't matter because they're so like okay.
Yeah,
But that's like a
yeah,
systems thing too, and it's
yeah.
not
It
like a
is.
player thing.
It is, and a
Okay.
lot of the time is if you feel lost in something, it's because you don't understand a way that a character can get value. You don't understand a basic system. One of the examples that we just used this past week is I did a GM Lucio VOD review, and it was clear that this player didn't have a lot of experience on Lucio, even though he was Grandmaster, because all he knew to do is speed with tank and have like halfway decent. But like there's this whole other dynamic to Lucio about like controlling off angles, helping your DPS, dueling, going whole Frogger mode, right? And knowing when and where that's appropriate. And so what ends up happening is people will tell me, oh, Lucio's bad in ranked, or I can play Lucio in scrims, but I can't play Lucio in ranked. And that whenever I hear that, instantly alarm bells go off in my mind that this player does not understand the system.
Good Lucios are game changing. I
Good
can't
Lucio's
lie.
good. Now, is Lucio a little bit harder in ranked because there are aspects that are worse? Yes, but generally when people struggle with Lucio in ranked, it's because they don't understand the whole off-angle DPS dual control space system. And it's not a problem with ranked; it's a problem with them. Partially a problem with ranked, but mostly a problem with them. So if you're a good team player with all the characters you're playing, Tracer, Asher, Sojourn, Window, it's because in struggling in ranked, it's because you don't actually understand those characters. You only understand how to function with those characters in a specific set headspace.
I think that's all I've worked to learn too, but I'm really
Right.
good at it because it's all I've learned. But that's all
Sure.
I've been taught to like.
Sure.
There's a
Sure.
quote that I really like. Everyone only knows what they know, and they're doing the best with the information they have in the environment they're in.
Sure. So the question is what are you missing with the fundamentals? What systems are you not understanding? It might be the way that you've taught yourself or the way that you've been taught, but I actually think that like good systems generally are applicable in ranked. Good systems are generally applicable in ranked, almost exclusively.
Like they are when I'm higher elo, but when I'm not, it's
all right because it's more chaotic, and people play more quote unquote according to rules. But then you're being thrown into the ball pit, right, where people don't play the way that you want them to play, and then you don't know how to deal with it, and don't know how to adjust.
Makes sense. When people play by rules,
right.
that's really
Well, not just rules, but the rules that you understand.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like defined rules.
Right. There's still a very clear philosophy and a flow and a poetry to how ranked is played, but it's not something that you understand. And the irony here is that's definitely hurting your scrim performance as well, because there are probably fundamentals that you're missing here. Okay, so do you have any other questions, or do you want to look at it? We got a few minutes to look at some gameplay here. Maybe we can pull out one of those systems that you're missing.
Okay, you can pick a map. All of them, like, I only have, so I've only played yesterday and 2 games today. And I also, okay, okay. I have an issue where I load into a game, like I loaded into a New Junk City game today, and we walked out on Zen, Lucio, Monkey, Junkrat, and I just mentally checked out.
See, there's your there's rearing its ugly head.
Mentally check out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it doesn't fit your system. We don't win games playing that comp, right?
Do you have like a specific map you want to look at? Or like
no, I don't.
It looks like it was long.
No, anything where you felt lost or frustrated or confused is juicy.
Okay, we'll go with my but I feel like the comp is so like a lot of these codes, like where I felt super lost, it didn't. Let's look at this one.
Felt like it wasn't your fault.
No, it's not that it wasn't my fault. It was just like it didn't feel like Overwatch, so I don't know if it's viable to look at. Like, if I was
it's always Overwatch. It's always Overwatch. That's your closed-mindedness. Share the code. All right, let's. I got my stream live here, the Discord stream live here. So
I did not play too hot in this game.
That's okay. I wonder why.
I actually played pretty poorly, but I think I mentally checked out when I tabbed in and see. We ended up going Queen, but like.
Okay, so your comp is actually pretty decent here, I think. For a ranked comp, this isn't too bad. Don't need a lot of healing. A little bit of off-angle control with you. It's fine. So what I would say is here, initial on rollout here, I would honestly prefer you to lean more towards this side with the character that you're playing.
Okay.
Just because of the nature of the length of the off angle that you're taking, this is okay if everyone's doing their job and fighting on point, but maybe if the fight happens here, you're too far away. You see what I'm saying? Like you're not doing effective pressure or damage from this angle here.
I feel like a sheep sometimes when I play. Like, I kind of just walked main because my team was walking main, but then there's like follow the herd.
So you want to talk about a system?
Yeah.
On rollout, what angle should I take? And if you can answer that question, or if you're not sure but you have an idea of what you need to try, then you have now made your ranked game a productive ranked game, whether you win or you lose.
Okay.
Unfortunate. So now, where do you go? You chase.
Can I go?
Do you rotate left? Do you play main, brute force it, then rotate out right?
I was just gonna wait for my queen.
Okay, but she's here.
Like
Where do you go?
Respawn. Left side makes sense.
That makes sense to me. So why are you in main? Okay, there we go.
Oh, hit a shot challenge.
It's okay.
Warm up. Warming up.
Wow, look at that. Suzy Forest. And shockingly, you're winning this fight. Who would have thunk?
That makes
You're
sense.
pulling resources this way. You're forcing CDs. You're forcing attention. Your team is walking out on main. And you're playing to your strengths, which is like that short to mid-range poke with your CDs. The only thing I would say there is like taking that angle without your mag grenade is always a little bit worse because you are a little bit more vulnerable, but it's still good. Nice job. The difference between what you did from that position and first fight is night and day.
Okay.
Night and day. Okay. System. Where should you be? Should you be here? Should you be deep angling
there,
here?
I was like, I don't think I should be here.
Should you be here? Should you be here? Should you be here?
Should you be left side?
Left side again?
Left side, yeah.
Yeah, I'm certainly not here though.
Yeah.
Because now you're running and you're not shooting. And now you have no angle. And now you're shooting a fortified Orisa.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, it's not even worth looking at the rest of this fight because you've started the stage in like the worst possible position. You're useless. All you could shoot was a fortified Orisa. No pressure on backline, no pig threat, vulnerable to Death Blossom, vulnerable to Javelin. Nothing.
Makes sense. Oh, why am I shooting an Orisa?
Frankly, after she misses Virus here, I'm rolling here.
Just swing her.
I'm getting in here, and then I don't have to worry about all this crap. I kill her, and then I maybe clutch this fight by hard flanking a run. Instead, you're just another body in the stack.
Spin.
Okay.
At this point, I just went Tracer because
This is good.
my mental was, I'm just going to go Tracer.
Yeah. Sure. It's fine.
Oh, this felt really bad, and I don't entirely know why. I think I didn't play point or like.
Are you on a short off angle?
No, it's on a deep angle.
Okay, when I say short off angle, I mean the range.
Range of my gun or range of my teammate?
The range of your gun.
Oh, I'm in like close.
Yeah. So it's good. Now, whether you play deep or not is up to you. I think this is pretty good. You might not play as deep if there's not as squishy of a backline, but there's nobody really contesting you right now, so this is fine. Just like, look at the attention you're getting. Is your team fighting? Are you on a deep off angle or on an off angle that plays to your range? Yes. Okay, let's go. So I'm going to give you the answer that you've been looking for. You did fine this fight. Your team sucks. Go next. The sirens that you just heard were there to pick up your teammates. But yeah, no, it was fine. Like this is why having an understanding of systems is so important, because if you're not sure what went wrong, it can feel very frustrating. It feels outside of your control.
This is low key partially because of like an old friend group I was in. I never know if a team fight is my fault or if my team trolled, because I used to get blamed for everything permanently, even if I played it right. So, because it's just how like the friend group went. So I don't actually like I have a tendency to struggle with knowing if I misplayed, and even if I played right and we lost, I'll try and adapt because I like mentally think it's my fault.
Yeah. So there's two ways to look at that. Number one is to have a set of objective truths that you know, and compare yourself to that objective truth and be like, did I take an off angle? Yes. Did I play my cooldowns well? Okay, yeah. Was I timing the pressure well? Yes. Okay, then it doesn't matter. You did fine.
Okay.
The other way to look at it is it doesn't really matter if the fight was your fault or not. If you were looking at this game and your job was to just be practicing selecting off angles, it doesn't matter whether you performed well. What matters is if you selected an off angle. Because the point of practice, whether it's in ranked or scrims, is not necessarily to perform. It's just simply to practice an individual skill. And if you're practicing the individual skill correctly, then you've already won. Like, give me a theoretical skill that you could be practicing this match. What could you practice?
Blink management.
Blink management. Okay, so then we don't care about your positioning. We don't care about your timing. We don't care about your mechanics. We don't care about your pulse arms. All we're looking at are your blinks. That's it.
Is that okay to practice on main account? I feel like if I'm
Yes.
practicing on main account, I just get flamed. People think I'm bad.
And that's exactly your problem. Stop trying to perform in ranked. Practice.
Okay.
Stop. This is
That
such a
makes
short.
sense.
You're scared of the losses. You know, it's like you gotta keep gambling. You know what I'm saying? Like you gotta be willing to lose to be able to win. You have to be willing to take risks.
I practice on all my alts, and they're just indefinitely higher. And I'm trying to win on my main, and I lose every game.
Yeah, because it's just a short. It's a very short term way of looking at things. You know, it's a very short term way of looking at things. Like I would say, the only time when performance actually matters is an official. And the funny thing about performance is like you're not even necessarily trying to perform. You're just playing. You're just playing. You're just not practicing. That's the only difference between performance and practice. Is that in performance you're not practicing. You're not trying to do more in a performance. You're just playing. Like if I switched off your brain and said just play and don't practice, that would be your optimal official performance. This whole mindset of like, oh, I'm going to clutch. I'm going to really dial in. No, that doesn't exist. Dialing in is dialing out. Taking the thought out of your actions and just being purely instinctual. But that's not a very good way to practice.
That makes sense. I always try and do more in officials.
Shouldn't do more in officials. Shouldn't do more in officials. Are you on a short range off angle / timing this well with your team?
No, I was tilted and just wanted to run in.
Well, I actually think this is objectively an off angle. Look at your team. Look at where you are. This is an off angle. Is this the best off angle? No.
No.
Give me a better off angle.
To the right. I don't take poke and I don't get scouted.
Yeah, just deeper, right? So that you get here, right? Or, like you said earlier, forcing point. Probably another option as well. Yep. How about your blink management here?
I just blink in instead of like if I went through the right, I only yeah. I think the first one was okay, second one maybe, third bad. I have no blinks as the fight's going on.
So you're not providing enough pressure, you're being inefficient with your resources, and you also took the wrong angle.
Yeah.
Is that what lost your team this fight? I have no idea. I don't care. Who cares? Why does it matter? Like the only time we're finding out whose fault it was matters is if I'm a coach on a third-person perspective and I'm trying to find out what the biggest issue that we need to address as a team is. And I look at this and I'm like, okay, my tracer angle was okay. This was okay. Maybe we needed to talk about a better retake option, right? You're not a coach. It's not your job. And you're not a team coach either. Like even when I'm working with you one-on-one, I don't care what one lost this team fight. I don't care. I just want to know what you need to work on. And I see blink management issues. I see tilt issues that are causing those blink management issues. And I see a lack of creativity with your approaches on angles. The timing is good, though. The timing is good. Nice job. And you did technically take an off angle. So, like, it's better than what you're doing on Cass, I guess. I mean, obviously, Tracer, it's a little bit more obvious to do that. But, we'll take what we can get, I suppose. But you see how I'm approaching this, right?
Yeah.
It's really simple. It's a system that you're missing.
That makes sense.
So we don't even care. Like, whatever. People make fun of me sometimes. I just go through VOD reviews and I'm just like skipping half the time because it's like, I don't care. Like if you don't check the boxes at the start, okay, go next. So let's watch another one. Are you on an angle? Yes. Are you timing this well? Yes. Is this a good angle? Yes.
Yeah.
So if your team loses this fight, unless you do something stupid in the next 10 seconds, I don't really care. This is fine. Good job. Good. 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 Unlucky. Nice fight. Go next. See how easy that is?
Yeah.
Right? Now, what's going to happen sometimes in ranked is you're going to take turns with your team. You're going to troll a fight, and your team is going to troll and fight, and you're going to feel really helpless. So the key thing here is that you're going to look at that, and you're going to get, okay, that's a little bit frustrating for sure. But you know what? I trolled the previous fight, and I trolled the first fight as well, and I've trolled many fights. So you know what? I'm not going to worry too much about it. That fight, I did my job. Good job. Let's try it again. Let's do what I just did there. Let's just do it again. Right?
Okay.
That's it. A little bit of typing, maybe, or maybe the thinking.
I was debating on just like swapping Widow. Like, no, that's not productive.
Widow on Flashpoint would be definitely a choice.
No, because when I see this, I mentally, okay, this is also due to like the friend group I was in. When I'm playing in this lobby, my brain is just going, oh, I'm in low over and over and over. When I see like really bad mistakes, and it's not healthy and not actually useful.
Yeah.
Because my brain is just going, oh, I'm in low versus something productive, but I don't have the information to know how to change my mindset.
Yeah.
That's why I contacted you.
Yeah.
So I feel like you know a lot about mindsets and what I should be looking at.
The tricky thing though is that I can feed you this information, but it's going to be up to you for you to actually execute in it, you know?
Oh, for sure.
So
the mountain is you.
The mountain is you, right? Absolutely. But yeah, I think even like your mindset here of like swapping Widow is like very damning, because that's telling me that like, oh, I can't win playing an honest hero. I have to just pick 5, otherwise we lose every fight. But if you look at that, that's actually just total bull. Like you're just not doing your job consistently.
That makes sense.
That's like the most hit scan beta male 18-year-old degen argument. And the thing is I hear that argument all the time, right? Oh, you can't carry with this. You have to play this hero to carry. It's like the same kind of stuff like, oh, you can't play Mercy and Bronze. You'll never climb. So, give me a break.
I knew this, but yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah.
Probably too deep of an angle without knowing where Somber is. That's it. Right?
Yeah.
You just needed to be either here or maybe a more conservative angle, or even if you want to take an angle, just take an angle where there's actually some sort of cover. So like you have opportunity to kind of LOS her, right? That's tricky here. I'm not gonna lie, this is a hard position. I don't know what the answer is here, but it's not a mystery why this goes
2 steps back farther because I have a slide exit.
Works for me. Yeah. And you're not gonna even touch. That's all there is to it. Okay. Any questions?
I think.
And by the way, if you don't have to feel like the questions is more of an open offer moving forward. If you have questions, you can message me directly anytime. But any questions right now?
Not currently, no.
Okay. Do you have an idea, at least in the short term, what you need to be working on?
Not entirely. I know I need to look at what I'm doing pre-fight and making sure I'm set up and doing what my character does well.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't have a route to like implement that, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So what's the solution then? Come up with a route. Maybe not now, but have at least a short-term game plan, right?
Yeah.
What are you missing with your Tracer? What are you missing with your Sojourn? And honestly, more than anything else, like what are you missing with your mindset? What adjustments do you need to be making with your mindset?
Well, I need to be having fun for starters.
Sure.
My thing is, so for me with fun in Overwatch, I really enjoy competing, and competing is fun. But if it's not competitive, I'm no longer having fun, and I struggle to play the game properly.
Sure. That's normal. That's a challenge for sure. But you also have to understand that, like, when you're competing, not to be super corny, but you are competing with yourself. Like, if you look at this ranked game as like, oh, these guys are just Masters players, it's not really worth my effort. But guess what? The matchmaker says you can't win this game. We don't think you can win this game. Good luck trying. And so you have to beat the matchmaker. You have to beat the matchmaker. You know what I'm saying? Like, you needed to win this game. Like, this game was so winnable, and you didn't win it. You fumbled it back. There's your competition.
That makes sense. I actually wrote that down recently. I like journal pretty consistent.
Yep.
Oh, one thing that I found I didn't do that's been life-changing that I started doing a few weeks ago was revising my notes. I would take notes, but I'd never go back to them. So I'd be really proficient for like 2 weeks because I'm taking notes and it's still in my brain. And then if you don't ever look at what you've done, it kind of leaves your brain.
Yeah. What's the point of taking notes if you don't like actually like Like I used to do this with book notes. I'd read a book and I'd take some notes, but then I like would just like whatever, like didn't really. I always had to go back and look at my notes and like try to pick up new skills to learn from like what I just actually practiced. So yeah, absolutely. And you need to do this with this session. You talk about like, oh, I don't really know what to do, like actionable from what we talked about. I'll have this sent to you in a couple of days. Go back,
Okay.
watch it again, take some notes. Don't try to do everything, right? That's the key thing. Like, you don't try to do all
I
the
do
skills
that.
that we talked about, right? Just develop something
Yeah.
small, develop yourself a little bit over time, a little bit over time. And I think the reason why this is so important is because this is a really good life skill, whether or not you reach the top of a WCS.
I
Make sense?
understand. That makes
All
a
right.
lot of sense.
Any other questions?
Yeah, that's all.
Okay. Keep in touch. Like I said, as